Alright, welcome to video number 4 here from 6 Gun Guitars. We're going to start talking about bracing templates. Again, if you can't really tell, I rely a lot on templates. I like them. You can do things once and makes them repeatable. These are just made out of 1/8 inch MDF. And really what this does is it gives you the location of the braces. It marks them clearly on the front so that way you can see them. And on the reverse side, I've got my back braces put on there as well. You can do the front and the back on one template. You can do 2 different bracing styles of the same type of guitar on the front and the back of a template. I've done both ways. Again, it's really just personal preference. But on a template like this, you can see that we've got all the different markings, and there's also different measurements that are listed on here for commonly used things. So that way when it comes down to laying out different braces or laying out bridge patches or whatnot, I know exactly where all of my different items are going to be at a glance without having to do any digging or really look or measure anything, which is fantastic because everything is already done. Now I'll show you in a second with another template that I have that's a blank how to make a couple of different ones, but here's the one that I have for an orchestra model. And I've got this one, which is a little bit of an experimental one with a double X brace on here. I made one guitar like this. It sounded pretty good. Really didn't sound too much better or worse than any of the other ones. It had a nice good sound and good resonance. I think it was a little weak on the bottom just because, I mean, it had so much stiffness and so much braces on there that it was a little bit choked, but who knows, it might work itself out, you know, over the years of playing and whatnot. But again, I've got my bracing here. I've even got locations for my diamonds and whatnot, different measurements again here, my sound hole braces. And then on the back side, I've got my back braces for the corresponding guitar. So now I'll move over to the workbench and I'll show you how to take and lay out a example template for yourself out of 1/4 inch MDF. Alright, so I've already done most of the rough work on this. This is again a piece of 1/4 inch MDF. You can use 1/8 inch, it doesn't make a difference. I laid out the pattern on here. I laid out 1/2 of it that I was able to draw, and then I flipped it over using the transfer technique that I showed earlier. Flipped it over, drew the other side so that way they're 100% symmetrical. Just because it makes it so that way you don't have to worry about did I get the drawing right, or is one side right, is one side lopsided. If this one side is 100% right and you transfer to the other side, that other side will be 100% right. I also struck a center line down the middle, which is going to be helpful in a minute, and I struck the location of my sound hole. And the reason that I have this here is obviously we don't want braces running through the sound hole. So I have a template on the wall that I refer to, but as far as this tutorial goes, I'm just going to go ahead and start laying out braces. Again, what you want to do is refer to a template, something that's tried and true, or something that you want to experiment with. That's totally fine too. Innovation is definitely something that's encouraged. That's how we get brand new stuff. It's through people trying things that everyone says isn't going to work. So what I like to do first, just as a reference point, is I like to put my upper face brace location on there first. And using the center line, it makes it nice so that way you can just come along with your square and your ruler and mark a nice straight line right across there and not have to worry about if it's straight or tilted or not. So I got my first line marked. That's going to be the location of the upper face brace, and that's going to be the bottom of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make my braces probably 3/8 inch wide, let's just say for this example. So I'll come over here and mark 3/8, then come over here and mark 3/8, and then take your ruler back and connect those marks. The reason that you want to do this is that you don't want to just wing it and put this stuff on here, because again you're going to be using this template to make other guitars out of. Now I already have a template for this size. This was just an extra, so that's why I'm not, you know, really referring to anything. I'm just kind of marking them out there as I see pleased, you know, or as I see fit, because again I'm not really going to use this ever again. But when you're doing this, make sure that you mark them out 100% accurately, so that way you get it right every time. Now I'm going to mark the location for the X brace, and I'm going to need a slightly longer ruler. But I'm going to mark the top one, and I like to keep my X braces, I like to keep the joint of it pretty close to the sound hole. That way it helps open up the belly a little bit. So I'm going to put that on here, mark the first one across, and then again come back for, let's say for this example, 3/8. Come back 3/8, 3/8. Connect those markings with the long square here. Again, getting them nice and even is good. Alright, so there is the first location of the X brace marked. Now we want to come back and do the second one, and this is pretty easy because as long as you intersect the same point on the line here and come from the same point on your upper face brace, these guys should wind up landing in pretty much the exact same position. So there's one. We mark 3/8 down here and 3/8 up here again. Come along and connect these two guys. Now we've got the X brace and the upper face brace all nice and line around the sound hole and nicely positioned on the guitar. At this point you can kind of label a few things like the angle between the intersection here. Sometimes it helps out a little bit. When you widen the angles on the outsides here, like these angles, which essentially makes the X taller and narrower, you're going to brighten the sound, you're going to make the soundboard a little stiffer. When you widen it out, you're going to reduce the amount of resistance in this area, and you're going to add a little bit. You're going to add a little bit more deepness, a little bit more tone to it. But you're also losing stability. You want to make sure that there's enough wood down here to make sure that when the string tension is applied, that you don't lose any strength and that we don't wind up having any bellying or anything like that on the guitar. Now the next set of bracings that I would lay out in this instance would be the lower face braces. First thing that you probably want to do is, according to your scale length, come out and measure exactly from the top of the, either from the top of the guitar, from the top of the sound hole, exactly where your bridge location is going to be. So I'm going to put a mark here where my bridge location is, so that way I know where to put my bridge patch on the guitar. So now I'll come along and mark a couple imaginary lines for my bridge patch, and again following the plan, you'll be able to get them 100% right. So I mark out my bridge patch, and now I want to mark out my lower face braces. So I like to have one that usually comes across the face pretty hard like this. So I'll put one of them here. And I like to do another one that comes across pretty hard as well. So I'll put another one here. And now what we do is go ahead and pull out any marks that are overlapping, so that way there's no confusion when it comes time to draw this stuff on here. And you can see that we've got the two other brace locations marked on here. And then for finger bracing, you know, it's easy as well. Follow the plan, draw out the locations of the finger braces. And these, depending on the plan, might be a little bit thicker, might be a little bit thinner. Normally they're thinner on most guitars than they are thick. Now we got finger braces, upper face, lower face, X, and we got the bridge patch in place all around the sound hole. Things are starting to look pretty good. The only other things that you may want to mark are sound hole braces. Braces, and again, any overmarking or any spots that aren't supposed to be on there, go ahead and erase those, so again there's no confusion when it comes time to use it. So I've got everything marked out on here, and again what I would do after this is I would come through and I would put in measurements for top of the sound hole, top of the guitar to the bottom of the sound hole, where the X brace is in relationship to the sound hole, where the actual bridge is going to be, where the saddles are going to be, where the pins are going to be located, just so that way we can make sure you get everything on this bridge patch like it's supposed to be. And even measurements like the distance between here and here, so that when you lay this thing on a piece of wood and you start marking the ends where all your locations are supposed to be, you're not going to be able to mark this because it's inside of the wood here. So knowing the distance between the X and here after the X is laid will show how to put all those different braces in and whatnot. Again, a really useful tool. Makes it so that way you don't have to refer to a plan, measure, draw something, refer to a plan, measure, draw the next thing. And literally it makes the whole thing as fast as what I did right here. You lay the thing out here, You mark all the different locations with some nicks on your pieces, again following the center line because that's what's going to keep everything lined up. Then you start connecting all your lines and you use the different measurements that you have written on here as your reference points. What I like to do for the angle of my sound hole braces up here is I'll measure from the end to here, and then I'll measure from the middle to here. So that way the distance from here to here and the distance from here to here is exactly the same, which centers them around here. That way you know that your sound hole braces are going to be nice and even, and everything is going to be nice and symmetrical the way that you want it. So again, that's writing out a bridge bracing plan for an acoustic guitar on just a regular old 1/4-inch piece of MDF. And this can be used over and over and over again. Again, label it, put the dimensions on there, take the time with it. That way you don't have to keep constantly referring to a plan when it comes to building your acoustic guitar.